in a television studio shows Phil Hartman and John Belushi sitting in chairs. Hartman: Hello, I'm Hill Fartman, and welcome to this year's 7th installment of SNL's Crazy Critics, where one of our in-house critics critiques the last SNL episode. Joining us this week is none other than Johan Belushi, a semi-retired sketch comedy veteran who, depending on when you ask him, cut his teeth in sketch comedy in Somalia, Zimbabwe, Egypt, Second City, or Puerto Rico. Welcome, Johan. Belushi: Thank you, Hill. This episode of SNL is near and dear to my heart, because I, of course, cut my teeth in sketch comedy in Vietnam when I was a Marine with Mr. Adam Driver. Hartman: Okay, great. Now you cut your teeth in sketch comedy in Vietnam as a United States Marine with Adam Driver, who is way too young to have served in Vietnam. Anyway, what did you think of the cold open? Belushi: I didn't like the setup of a congressional hearing, as I have bad memories about having to testify in front of Congress about my time serving in Vietnam. But I liked how they grilled those elitists whose kids got out of having to serve in Nam, grilling them about how they let those punk kids talk shit about the Jews. I didn't fight Charlie just so a bunch of bratty kids could talk about genocide. Hartman: So when you were in Vietnam, you weren't fighting for free speech? Belushi: Not for a bunch of spoiled, rotten kids and their hate for the Jews. Can you imagine? My platoon must be rolling in their graves all over the jungles of Vietnam. Hartman: Okay, moving on. What did you think of Adam Driver's monologue? Belushi: Where he sang for a ghost? Hartman: Excuse me? Belushi: Driver sang a song on the piano for Santa Claus. And of course there was a Santa Claus, till he got gunned down by Charlie in 1971. Hartman: So you're claiming Santa Claus served in Vietnam and was gunned down by the Viet Cong in 1971? Belushi: That's right, and it wasn't a very Merry Christmas, as we carried his heavy and mutilated corpse through the brutally hot jungle so it could be sent back to Mrs. Claus at the North Pole. Hartman: Okay, what did you think of the next sketch, We're Trying? Belushi: To think I performed sketch comedy for 2 years all along the jungles of Nam, just so gay people could have babies. It's disgusting. Hartman: The point of the sketch was that the other couples couldn't figure out how the gay couple was going to have a baby if they weren't adopting or having a surrogate. Belushi: No, Fartman. The point of the sketch was that my sacrifice in Nam meant nothing. You don't think I portrayed gay characters from time to time in my sketches? Of course I did. And now they're having babies? No wonder Saigon fell, goddammit. Hartman: Okay, I'm confused, so I'm just going to move on. What did you think of the video sketch, Old Friends? Belushi: This sketch reminded me of that time Troy from my old platoon reached out to me around Christmas, and he decided not to catch up after all, just because I kept bringing up the time him and I carried Santa Claus through the jungles of Vietnam. How his camouflage was covered in his blood made him look like how he did back at the North Pole. It's just not fair how people like Troy can move on and get married and have kids. And I'm stuck with all those painful memories and can't get my life together. Plus, like Adam's character, I'm also not allowed within 1,000 feet of a school, but not for sex stuff, more to do with guns. Hartman: But you liked the video, though? Belushi: It gave me a reason to not go on Facebook. Hartman: Okay, and what did you think of the next sketch, Beep Beep? Belushi gets scared and takes cover under his chair. Hartman: Hello? Johan? Beep Beep? Belushi pokes his head up from under the chair and yells, Stop saying that! Hartman: Saying what? Beep Beep? Belushi: Yes! That's what our signal was when Charlie was in the area and shooting at us. Can't tell you how many of my brothers I saw gunned down after someone yelled the dreaded double B. As Belushi climbs back in his chair, Hartman says, Well, I'm sorry about that, but what did you think of the sketch? Belushi: Considering that they kept repeating the double B phrase throughout, it gave me a panic attack and forced me to hide under the couch with PTSD. Hartman: Okay, well, what did you think of the next sketch, Shop TV Christmas? Belushi: I was still under the couch panicking during this sketch. Maybe you could catch me up. Hartman: Heidi and Mikey were hosts of an infomercial where they were selling holiday treats, and Adam was a guest who sold a chocolate Santa that looked like a penis. Belushi. That reminds me of when I was with Jamal Jones, and someone yelled the dreaded double B, and Jamal got shot so bad in the groin that his dick exploded all over me. Hartman. Okay, well, let's move on to Olivia Rodrigo's performance of Vampire. Belushi. I managed to get a hold of myself and get back on the couch for this performance, and I loved it as Olivia reminds me of the girlfriend I had in Saigon during my sketch performing, Dung Dang. Well, I called her a girlfriend, but Dung was really a prostitute. But boy, was she something else. I remember her performing fellatio on Jamal before he got his dick blown off. Hartman. Okay, Olivia reminds you of a Vietnamese prostitute. Moving on, what did you think of Weekend Update? Belushi. Well, I liked how they went after Hunter Biden, who was a chicken shit who got out of serving in Nam. Hartman. Hunter was born in 1970. Belushi. Not much of an excuse if you ask me. But anyway, I couldn't stand Marcelo Hernandez's bit about why depression among men is at an all-time high. I had reasons to be depressed because Charlie, people who looked like Marcelo, were shooting my friends' dicks off. Hartman. First of all, that's the second time now that you've compared someone of Latin heritage to someone who's Vietnamese. Do you really think they look that much alike? Belushi. The Hispanic's eyes are a little bigger, but other than that, I can't tell a difference. Hartman. Good God! Anyway, what did you think of Chloe Fineman's appearance on Weekend Update? Belushi. This was the highlight of the evening for me, as during Chloe's bit, Julia Stiles made a cameo, and I must say, watching Julian Save the Last Dance on my iPhone while in the jungles of Nam was sometimes the only thing that got me through the night. Hartman. First of all, Save the Last Dance came out 30 years after the Vietnam War, and iPhones didn't come out until about 10 years after Save the Last Dance. Belushi. You weren't there with me in those jungles, Fartman. What the hell do you know? Hartman. Moving on, what did you think of the sketch Airplane Baby? Belushi. This sketch reminded me of the time our platoon captured a town and held a baby as a prisoner. He was just like Adam as a baby here, with a gigantic head. That baby freaked us out so badly that my buddy Dallas ended up beheading him, and we ate the baby's gigantic head. Hartman. Despite that brutally terrible memory that it conjured up, you liked the sketch? Belushi. Yeah, I thought it was very funny. Hartman. Okay, and we'll skip Olivia's second performance so as to avoid you once again comparing her to a Vietnamese prostitute. So what did you think of the video Elder PSA? Belushi. There's nothing worse than a bunch of no-good rotten kids pulling pranks on old people like me. I sympathize with Adam's character, who was also a vet. This sketch made me want to grab my AK-47 and wipe out a whole Hartman. Okay, I'm going to cut you off there before you say any more about wiping anyone out with an AK-47. Finally, what did you think of the last sketch of the evening, Tiny Ass Bag? Belushi. All the tiny bags in the sketch reminded me of the body bag that my friend Jamal's penis was brought back in, as he wasn't very well endowed. And dead from the earth, we're not alive. It's Saturday Night Alive, starring John Belushi, Chris Farley, Phil Hartman, Jen Hooks, Norm MacDonald, Gilda Radner, Denitra Vance, and with many other special deceased contributors. Musical guest, Big Pokey, and your host, Norman Lear. Everybody, Norman Lear. Applause, applause, applause. Shows Lear on stage who says, thank you, thank you. I was a screenwriter and producer who produced, wrote, created, or developed over 100 television shows. I created and produced numerous popular 1970s sitcoms, including All in the Family, Maude, Sanford and Son, One Day at a Time, The Jeffersons, and Good Times. My shows introduce political and social themes to the sitcom. Applause, applause, applause. Lear. Besides being a producer, I had the privilege of hosting Saturday Night Live, the second episode of its second season. In my monologue, I showed a video montage where the various actors on many of the shows I was producing at the time talked about how they got along and what they thought of me. While they all had very nice things to say, when I would turn to look at the camera, behind my back they all showed disdain for me, culminating in B. Arthur having a bucket of water splashed on my head. Anyway, presently I've been humbled and honored by the various outpourings of love and support many wonderful people have given me on social media since my death. I thought I would share a few right now. John Stewart wrote on Twitter, "Good night, Norman, love you. Thanks for raising me. Short and sweet. Thank you, John." Shows John Belushi behind Lear on stage who rolls his eyes. Lear. And this was from Al Franken on Threads. God bless Norman Lear, who gave America comedy and satire with warmth and hilarity. Norman was a champion of democracy and a kind and generous soul. A giant. May his memory be a blessing to all who had the privilege to know him. Wow, that was quite a statement. Thank you, Al. Shows Belushi behind Lear simulating that he is puking. Lear. And Judd Apatow shared a picture of me on Instagram, stating that every moment with Norman was special, and what an honor it was to be around people who devote their lives to making people happy. That was much appreciated, Judd. Thank you. Shows Belushi repeatedly pointing at his own ass, and then pointing at Lear. Lear. And the following was a real beautiful message posted on Instagram by Kevin Nealon. Kevin said, while posting a few pictures of the two of us, the following. God bless you, my friend. Thank you for your inspiration, wisdom, support, friendship, and love, and what a zest you have for life and the people in it. Your curiosity and feelings about current events and political issues amaze me. You stayed engaged and spoke out when you saw wrong. Above all of your accomplishments, you cherished your family the most. I was incredibly moved that day at your home when your daughter, Brianna, was sitting beside you holding your hand. The love, admiration, and pride she had for you was undeniable. I'm sure those feelings were shared by your entire family. I asked you once if you were afraid of dying. You thought about it briefly and said, it's not the going, it's the leaving. Well, leaving wonderful people like you, Kevin, certainly makes this a tough transition. Thank you for the remarkably kind words. Shows Belushi behind Lear simulating as if he's masturbating. Lear. And there's so many others, but I'll share one more from Jimmy Kimmel, who wrote on Instagram the following. It is obviously silly to want more time with a person who outlived a whole century, but losing Norman Lear even at 101 years old feels unfair. His bravery, integrity, and unmatched moral compass were equaled by his kindness, empathy, and wit. Norman was very proud of the fact that the so-called Reverend Jerry Falwell dubbed him the #1 enemy of the American family. The opposite was true. More than anyone before him, Norman used situation comedy to shine a light on prejudice, intolerance, and inequality. He created families that mirrored ours, showing us a world in which Archie Bunker and Michael Stivic could learn to not only coexist, but to love one another. As a young man, Technical Sergeant Lear flew 52 combat missions over Nazi Germany. He continued to fight for freedom all the way to the end of his life on Earth. Even at 101, Norman cared as much about the future, our children and planet, as anyone I have ever known. He was a great American, a hero in every way, and so funny, smart, and such a lovely man you almost couldn't believe it. The privilege of working alongside Norman and the opportunity he gave me and my wife to get to know him and his beautiful family has been among the great honors and pleasures of my life. We were all very lucky to have him. Wow. Thank you so much, Jimmy. That was so kind. It's hard to put into words how sweet that was. Shows Belushi walk up behind Lear and pour a bucket of water on his head. Lear. Thank you, John. I'm happy I have your appreciation, too. We have a great show tonight. Big Pokey is here, so get ready to get piped up. We'll be right back.